All right, let me start off a little bit differently today. Surveillance is a scary concept. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of companies watching my every move, reading my emotions, sharing that footage with their peers, and basically monetizing or scrutinizing my daily life for their own purely profit-driven purposes. In my view, that is a gross corporate overreach. However, I also don't want this video to become a one-sided fear-mongering anti-surveillance doomsday rant. That kind of content helps no one. People tune out. We all know it's happening, but no one really wants to hear someone else complain about it. It's like complaining about airline food or mosquitoes or long lines. Everyone already knows, therefore complaining about how bad it is and how the trend of increasing worldwide surveillance is terrifying is pretty much useless. Instead, I want this video to be informative. The truth is, there are measurable benefits to the concept of surveillance, undeniable benefits, and more so than anything else, explaining what those benefits are while simultaneously showing how far the concept has already grown, possibly beyond those benefits, might be a better approach. Example, surveillance, to the surprise of no one, has a measurable impact on crime rates. I started with individual studies, such as this one out of Stockholm, which indicated a 25% reduction in overall crime rates in the subway transit system, and ended with a 40-year systemic review, which also concluded that CCTV has a substantial impact on crime rates, most notably vehicle crime and property crime. My point is, when we talk about the concept of surveillance, it has to be acknowledged that there are positive applications. Therefore, widespread condemnation of that concept kind of falls flat on its face. Privacy is great, but when surveillance demonstrably impacts net negative crime in such a large way, it gets a bit more complicated. AKA, I'm trying to make this video a bit more nuanced. I'm usually a diehard privacy advocate, but for this one, I'll try and focus on the raw information and leave out my personal opinions. All right, with that out of the way, what type of surveillance are we talking about? Obviously, CCTV means visual, but there's also content and audio surveillance. When it comes to audio, look no further than Amazon. It's an open secret that Amazon Alexa uses real human conversations from the users to train its own speech recognition function or improve it, and that Amazon has collected data far beyond what it needs to for the purpose of the software itself. Alexa, play Despacito. If that worked on anyone, by the way, that means your Alexa is now recording you because I said the word Alexa. See how it works? Anyway, what might be significantly less known is that Amazon has an unwavering commitment to its police and military clients on the subject of AI. Amazon makes a tremendous amount of money selling facial recognition software to law enforcement and military clients, but more importantly, they have a strict policy reading, quote, Amazon does not disclose customer information in response to government demands unless we're required to do so to comply with a legally valid and binding order, end quote. Obviously, that policy makes sense as a corporate entity who does business in a country and wants to remain compliant with that country's government. Again, fairly obvious, but sticking with the example of the United States at least, we can see that precedent already exists. In 2018, a judge ordered that Amazon hand over echo recordings in a murder case because the smart speaker may have picked up something relevant to the prosecution. Not did, mind you, may have. That particular court case actually ended up falling apart. The state mishandled evidence, resulting in a mistrial. But as a secondary example, in 2015, Amazon actually did hand over the data from an Echo device in someone's home because, yes, they will give audio recordings of you to law enforcement when ordered. What next? Next, we need to connect a couple of dots on the page, beginning with this right here. According to documents obtained by The Intercept, Amazon Ring cameras were potentially the subject of a development initiative internally to form some kind of neighborhood watch list. Strangely, it also appears that Amazon has direct control over everything that law enforcement is even allowed to say about Ring, including how law enforcement partners are or are not allowed to portray the products. There is currently a system for Ring cameras where users can opt in or out of alerts that allow them to share relevant videos with law enforcement when a crime is committed in their particular area, aimed at increasing neighborhood safety. But circling back to some sort of potential neighborhood watch list, whatever that means, built on the concept of facial recognition, well, that is a very large leap forward. In 2019, again, according to documents reviewed by The Intercept, Ring CEO Jamie Sinimoff sent a company-wide email stating that Ring was declaring war on anyone who wanted to harm a neighborhood, and also pushed forward with a project that made it significantly easier for law enforcement to obtain footage from Ring cameras, with a bespoke internal portal system directly for that purpose. The video that was shared described Ring security systems in the following way, quote, "It's like having thousands of eyes and ears on the street," end quote. And we need to remember that these are security systems placed both externally and internally inside the home through a private company with a direct, intimate, and expanding partnership or relationship with law enforcement. Yes, surveillance has a somewhat direct inverse correlation to crime. More of one typically means less of the other, but it's important to understand the full scope of things. Let's take another step forward here and jump from Amazon to a company called Serve Robotics. Primarily in use for the purpose of delivering food, Serve Robotics has a commercial deal with Uber Eats in select locations to fulfill orders. That seems fine, but what if I told you that these little robots right here, crawling the streets to deliver food, were feeding surveillance footage to the LAPD? Would that change things? These things are actually kind of hilarious, the robots themselves. One of them just casually crossed over an active crime scene one time, and the footage that was shared with the LAPD so far mostly pertains to instances where the robots themselves are being stolen or vandalized. But think about the foundation here. A bunch of little robots on wheels constantly recording surveillance footage, cruising the streets autonomously in a major city, and the company responsible for them has expressed open desire to form some sort of larger partnership with the LAPD. Obviously, for the purpose of law enforcement, that's a dream come true. Consider this. There is a rising push towards automated taxis, robo-taxis, in a substantial part of the developed world. But what many people fail to realize or consider is that robo-taxis are absolutely bristling with cameras everywhere. These cameras are always on by necessity and record whatever they see for the company to enhance device capabilities. Thing is, that makes them an effective 360-degree mobile surveillance platform. Thousands of them cruising the streets, recording everything you do. Internal police documents from San Francisco, originally obtained by Motherboard, explicitly detail, quote, autonomous vehicles are recording their surroundings continuously and have the potential to help with investigative leads. Information will be sent in how to access this potential evidence. Investigations has already done this several times, end quote. Law enforcement and government agencies are obviously salivating at the idea of being able to access or subpoena that footage. They've done so numerous times already, as we just read. And if we consider only these prior three examples, there are thousands of eyes and ears on the street, courtesy of Ring, thousands of miniature autonomous cameras delivering food, courtesy of Serve Robotics, and thousands of 360-degree mobile surveillance platforms cruising the streets, courtesy of companies like Waymo and Cruise. Now, all of this focuses on the idea of surveillance as a means to deter crime, which it does, but what about other applications? A secondary, less considered purpose of video surveillance can be content serving, and that might seem a little bit abstract, but let me explain. See, video surveillance is now subject to facial recognition. There are ample programs out there demonstrating this, some better, some worse, etc., but they range in efficacy from simply identifying the faces all the way to emotional extrapolation and mood analysis. Consider this. If a camera can recognize who you are and interpret your mood in real time, then the fleeting looks of disgust you feel in the supermarket, like when a vegan accidentally turns down the meat aisle and hates every second of it, those emotions can suddenly be turned into a customized spread of which advertisements you see when browsing online. Yes, it's a bit abstract and possibly more advanced than what they do right now, today, but when cameras can read one's emotional state, and there are cameras everywhere, it becomes easy for data to be interpreted and sold to relevant companies by anyone who has you sign a waiver, aka pretty much every single company out there, because we all sign those waivers willingly every day without a second thought. Imagine the ability for a company to sell real-time interpreted data from CCTV cameras that showcases the mood and emotional state of customers at any given retail store, for example, directly to the companies that manufacture products for those stores. Now imagine that they can sell that data to an analytics platform, like Google, for example, who can then pair said data to your personal online browsing account. What starts to happen is an interconnected web where the ads you see online are based on your actual emotional responses in person in real time. How many people out there, show of hands, even though I can't really see you, how many people out there have talked about something or thought about something, and then suddenly you start to see ads for it everywhere online? You don't know why, you don't necessarily start Googling it or searching for it elsewhere, but you maybe talked about it with a friend at the dinner table or caught yourself standing there staring at it in a store this one time, thinking about whether or not it's something you really want. Most of us have encountered that type of feeling, and maybe it's not fully defined yet. Maybe it's better explained by the simple psychology of looking for something, therefore it becomes easier to pay attention to, where it existed already in the first place. But the idea that every single move you make, every single place you go, and every single action you are responsible for can be surveilled, at least in modern cities or developed neighborhoods, isn't science fiction. It's very real. How far that concept has already been deployed, how much of that data is actually shared between individual companies, because a lot of them obviously compete with each other, and what actual usage it gets for the purpose of serving content is obviously very hard to determine, at least for someone like me. But the possibility exists, the push towards it is absolutely real, and the future of surveillance continues to grow. My goal here isn't to fearmonger. What's happening is happening, and there's nothing someone like you or me can do to stop it. Not a single damn thing, other than partition ourselves away from modern society, which I think about a lot, but I don't even really know how to do that. However, as the changes occur, we absolutely can discuss where they might lead. There are certainly positives to the idea of increasing surveillance, positives in the form of convenience, positives in the form of security, and surely additional ways that people can be positively impacted. But it also comes with the knowledge that every single thing you do can be filmed, recorded, reviewed, analyzed, and disclosed. Like it or not, we live in a near total state of surveillance already when you combine audio, visual, and data metrics into one singular thing. But that level is only ever rising. The amount of time you are being filmed without your knowledge while walking down the street is only ever increasing, never decreasing. And whether or not someone is for or against that is a personal decision to make. As I said, I want to take a step back from the doomsday angle and fear-mongering about it and focus just on simple reality. If you like the content, there are links down below, primarily locals, Patreon, and channel memberships. Those are by far the best way to support the channel when compared to AdSense, as well as some other things, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.